Today in Memo to the President, the topic is Expand the Agenda in Pakistan and Afghanistan. Hello, I'm Gigi Hinton, along with Brookings Senior Fellow, Vanda Felbab-Brown, author of the Memo. Vanda, South Asia, you write, is virtually a tinderbox between the events in Afghanistan, Pakistan, and India as well. So what's President-elect Obama really facing? What's the situation?
The incoming Obama administration is facing a very serious crisis in South Asia. The war in Afghanistan is not being won. Al-Qaeda has built up strongholds in the mountains of Afghanistan, Pakistan, that has now become forefront of terrorist activity. One latest element of the terrorist activity are the attacks in Mumbai, horrific on their own, but also very serious at destabilizing relations between India and Pakistan, bringing the two nuclear countries to the brink of serious military confrontation.
Okay, so you say despite all of this, there are some opportunities here for the president-elect. What are those?
Indeed, during the presidential campaign, Mr. Barack Obama identified Afghanistan and Pakistan as an area on which he would concentrate. And this has resonated very well with the international audience. Our NATO partners in Europe and elsewhere are looking toward the administration to bring initiative and activity on Afghanistan. The Afghan population is similarly looking to the new administration to help reverse the very serious negative trends that are affecting Afghanistan. And President Zardari, the president of Pakistan, has also indicated some willingness to accommodate relations with India. And although the situation between India and Pakistan is very difficult right now, the Indian parliament the Indian administration just said that they will back away from any military confrontation. So the challenges are enormous, but there are also opportunities.
So President-elect Obama does have enormous opportunities amid this crisis. What are some of the steps looking forward?
Mm-hmm. There are two sets of steps that need to be taken. One internally in Afghanistan, and one focusing on the regional security framework that can be built in South and Central Asia. In the internal situation in Afghanistan has been deteriorating, and there are several critical areas that need to be addressed. First of all, it is the security situation. One way to deal with the decrease in the security situation is to bring more troops. This is in fact going to be happening. This needs to be couched within a political framework that the Obama administration will have an opportunity to work with our Afghan partners as well as with our European and NATO partners to build in Afghanistan. Further progress needs to be accomplished on the economic situation in the country. Afghanistan is still one of the poorest countries in the world. Many people this year will face starvation unless they receive food aid. The poppy economy is burgeoning, fueling corruption, fueling insurgency. Steps need to be taken toward addressing that. So those are some of the critical elements on the domestic situation in Afghanistan. The large regional situation needs to involve helping Pakistan and India back away from the current tension, from the current crisis, and embrace a longer-term rapprochement, accommodation that will focus perhaps on Kashmir, that will need to help Pakistan deal with its internal insecurity in the federally administered areas, and that will also bring other regional important players, China, Russia, Saudi Arabia, and even Iran, as difficult as that is.
Vanda Felbab-Brown, thank you so much for your time here today. And if you would like to read this paper in its entirety, please visit our website, www.brookings.edu, and you can read it there. Thank you, and we'll see you next week.
What should President-elect Obama do about Afghanistan and Pakistan?
Afghanistan, we've gotten way behind, but I think it is possible, since the government actually invited us in, to be able to work with them using development and, unfortunately, more military assistance.
We need to increase the troops in those two areas and decrease troops in other areas that we're not needed any longer, like Iraq.
We need to be able to have the full cooperation of people from Afghanistan if any sort of U.S. government help is going to work out.
Pakistan is much more difficult because it's not clear whether the intelligence service of the Pakistan government or military is working with or is willing to go against the Taliban.
And that's what I think.
Hello, I'm David Mark with Politico, along with Brookings Senior Fellow Stephen Hess, author of What Do We Do Now? A Workbook for the President-elect. Hello, Steve. In the 6 weeks or so of this presidential transition so far, Barack Obama, the president-elect, has held some press conferences, not every day, but during various intervals. How effective has he been at parceling out information to the media?
I think it's been quite remarkable. I don't know if it's a record for the number of press conferences, but it must be close to it. And they've been very shrewdly done. It's clear that he presents a message. For example, he announces clusters of appointments, the economic cluster, the national security cluster, the energy cluster. So he's focusing the world through the press on how he plans to run the government. He's done well with what is partly an old press corps, that is those left over from the campaign press corps, but also new people who he's going to be meeting in the White House press corps. So it's a blending. You could see from time to time that he's not quite sure who that person asking the question is, but he's going to learn.
He seems to take 3 or 4 questions during his press conferences and then kind of scoots off the podium. Is this an example of always leave them wanting more, of wanting the press to come back for more questions?
I think in this case it makes a lot of sense because he has a message. He's given his message. He's given the press a little elbow room to go beyond the message. For example, they certainly went in the sort of Balago gate for one press conference, and then it was, I guess, one question of another. But that was good. That was on people's mind. But generally, he would like the questioning to relate to what he's talking about.
And how does this compare to other presidential transitions that you've participated in or studied, for better or for worse?
Well, you know that in a press conference under the Clinton transition, 1992, he really fell off a cliff when he answered a question about how he was going to lead, in a sense, with gays in the military, which, after all, was not his priority legislation. Remember, that was the campaign as the economy's stupid. So that was bad, a press conference badly used. Mm-hmm. There's been nothing like that under Barack Obama.
What do you make of the fact that some of his key appointments, Secretary of Defense, Secretary of State, National Security Advisor, all were made in one press conference rather than separating them several times over?
That's exactly what he should do, because they do have to work together. They have to be thought of together. I hope they were in his mind when he chose them together, but that's the message he's delivering.
Well, that's all we have time for today. Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Dave.
Be a part of the presidential transition. Join our pundits and experts for The Scouting Report, our live web chat every Wednesday afternoon at 12:30. Log on to www.brookings.edu/transition.